Before Dark Souls, The Last of Us, God of War 2018, Breath of the Wild, and many other amazing titles, there was ICO, a game that is considered to be one of the most influential pieces of gaming media in the past 20 years. But this begs the question, is it any good on its own without the cult status? In order to find this out, I have decided to pick up the HD remaster of ICO for the PlayStation 3 and spend some time with this game. And when the final credits rolled, there's only one thing that I can say.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Well, not really. I mean, yes, it is a genius concept and a game that was clearly ahead of its time. But if we were to look at it as a standalone title without the cultural significance that it has obtained, then we get a very basic, sluggish, pseudo-intellectual puzzle platforming adventure hybrid with minimalistic storytelling and a unique visual presentation. In other words, your typical atmospheric modern indie game with a focus on being an experience. And this is exactly what I would say if I had to describe ICO in 2 words. An experience. Meaning that you'll find it hard to really enjoy the game in the traditional sense of this word. And this is mainly due to a lackluster gameplay that was intentionally made this way to quote-unquote get rid of everything that was unnecessary. Sure, there are some clever gameplay mechanics sprinkled here and there to give us at least a little bit of variety when solving the puzzles that gradually increase in difficulty as the game progresses. But the core of the game remains the same. Walk into an area, solve the puzzle to progress further, fight a bunch of generic enemies, move on to the next stage. The story itself is best described as bare bones as it could possibly be. You could probably fit the entirety of the dialogue of ICO on one half of a Word document page with a decent font size. There is next to no exposition, no explanation of what's going on and why we're here, who are these people, what is this castle. I could go on and on. But that's kinda the point. Just to remind you, the goal was to remove anything that wasn't 100% necessary for the narrative. There's a boy named ICO who was born with horns, which is considered to be a bad omen amongst his people. So they take him to some random castle and put into a pot saying it's for the greater good. The boy escapes the pot and finds a girl locked up in a cage hanging near the ceiling. He frees her, and they both try to escape this mysterious place while fighting shadowy figures that are trying to take the girl away. Her name is Yorda, by the way, and she's the daughter of the queen. Oh, and they cannot communicate by talking as they don't know each other's languages, so the kids mainly resort to gestures and shouts, with the only way to contact is via literal physical interaction like hand-holding, which is a very smart move and a neat mechanic. There isn't really much to talk about here as you mostly have to piece everything together yourself, and the only character who at least takes her time to explain everything is the main villain, the queen who wants to find a way to prolong her life at the cost of Yorda's existence. And I do understand that this was intentional and that Fumito Ueda, the mastermind and the main ideologist at Team ICO, wanted to create a game with a minimalistic storytelling revolving around the basic concept of boy meets girl. Besides, there are plenty of examples of games utilizing this approach to the story which ICO essentially pioneered. This includes the Soulsborns and Breath of the Wilds to name a few. But at least giving a bit more context to what is going on would be nice, and the aforementioned games did a far better job at introducing us to their worlds. And this makes sense as these titles came after ICO, and wouldn't really be the same without its influence. But as a standalone game, ICO just feels incredibly overrated, with people giving it way too much praise than it deserves, and something that was made artsy and different for the sake of being artsy and different, if that makes sense to you. Once again, I understand that ICO was more of a concept, a vision, an experiment that tested the waters to see if there was interest in this kind of narrative, and I also acknowledge the impact it had on the next 20 odd years of game development. but playing it today is a very shallow and rough experience, starting with the story that could be boiled down to he went there, she followed, and finishing off with mediocre gameplay, where the only redeeming quality are the puzzles that make clever use of the scarce mechanics introduced to the player. Of course, if you want to see something or feel a certain way when experiencing ICO, then you will. But for me, it was really hard to connect with the story and gameplay for the most part, despite my love for the bizarre artistic games that offer fresh experiences. The process that went into creating each area in the game was so meticulous and so open to different interpretations, yet straightforward and precise, that at first I was simply taken aback by how fluent each level transition is, how the game let me find the solution myself, only given faint hints here and there, how I knew exactly where to go despite not having any map, HUD, or other things that could have just pointed me in the right direction. It's this feeling of the game guiding you through its great level design without holding your hand, giving you a sense of discovery that I really enjoyed. And I'm glad that there are games today that still follow this philosophy and actually respect the player's intelligence by not presenting a solution on a silver platter. I can think of games like The Witness, Portal, and It Takes Two that clearly drew inspiration from ICO. It's that feeling when you just take one glance at the game, play the first couple of minutes, and you can already see other titles looking at you from the other side of the screen. Honestly, when I finally took control over ICO and wandered through the first couple of rooms, I immediately said to myself, well, now I see where Dark Souls got its ideas from. It's like finding the source of a great river that starts its life as a small stream deep in the mountains, and you simply cannot believe how humble and peaceful it is. And then you have the controls and other wonderful gameplay elements. When playing ICO, it felt as I was going through a very pretty, but average puzzle platformer with horrendous controls that caused an immense number of restarts and an untimely death of my nerve cells. I honestly can't remember when was the last time that the controls made me rage so hard, because this fucking game has honestly some of the worst, sluggish, unresponsive controls that I've had the displeasure of experiencing in quite a long time. And believe me, I've played many games with bad controls, but ICO just felt like the developers were so far up their ass with their vision that they forgot how a fucking game is supposed to be played. It's as if they slapped together something resembling a control scheme that allowed the characters to at least move and called it a day. And it would be fine if ICO was not a goddamn motherfucking platformer. Like, are you serious? You want me to climb walls, jump over gaps, make precise timed jumps, with a game that controls like a severely overweight hippo on ice skates in the middle of a swamp, and camera angles that are at times more of a hindrance than a helping hand? And I don't understand what exactly went wrong. Is it the stiffness of the DualShock controllers, or did someone just royally fuck up when they programmed this game? You can have the best level design in the industry, but if your game controls like ass, there's really no redemption there. Do you like escort missions in games? Did you have fun with Ashley in Resident Evil 4? That did not sound right. Okay, did you have fun having to constantly save Ashley in Resident Evil 4? How about the survivors in Dead Rising? Or perhaps escorting the little sisters in BioShock is your thing? No? Oh boy, do I have some great news for you. ICO is not only a ship platformer, but also an escort mission. Yorda's only purpose in this entire game is to open the final door in the level. That's it. She's like a suitcase without a handle that you're forced to drag on with you because otherwise you cannot progress. And it would be fine if her AI had at least more than one brain cell to follow ICO around and wait for him exactly where she was left. Instead, we get this mechanic of calling and pulling her by the hand because otherwise she won't follow you, even if you're walking on an even surface. From a narrative perspective, this hand-holding thing is very unique and clever, but when you have to literally drag Yorda around for 6 hours straight, coupled with terrible fights that you have to engage in, it becomes more of an annoyance than a feature. And I don't even want to talk about the fact that she can get carried away by the shadows and placed in a black hole that sucks her in, and you lose. I mean, I get that ICO was supposed to be this unique way of telling the story via the means only accessible in video games. But when the things that make a video game, well, a video game are done poorly, what the hell is the point of it all? I mean, at least everything looks nice and sounds amazing. Got to give credit where it's due. ICO is one of the most impressive looking PlayStation 2 games that I have ever seen. And to think that this came out only a year after the console launched impresses me even more. The scale of the buildings making you feel tiny, the contrasting colors, the character models, the sounds of birds humming and the elements doing their thing, coupled with light-hearted music that only plays while saving. Aesthetically, ICO is amazing, and I can totally see how many aspiring developers were influenced by its art style. ICO was a game that I began playing knowing how many people credit it to be one of the most important pieces of gaming media in the last 20 years. But I still wasn't expecting much from it and didn't really know what it was about. So this review, essay, analysis, angry rant of a sad man in his mid-20s, I mean call it however you like, was made with me reviewing the game at base value, without giving additional points for its legendary status or any other bullshit that other pretentious people might add, thinking that it will automatically excuse any flaws a product has. Did I enjoy it? At times, yes. There are many positive things like excellent level structure, great graphics and sound design that still hold their own even today. However, ICO comes with its own set of flaws that I simply cannot overlook. The main offender being the controls and the escort elements that sometimes felt like I was wrestling with the game. So would I recommend anyone to play it? It's really hard to say, because from a gameplay perspective ICO is a combination of brilliant level design and clever puzzles, mixed with dogshit controls and sluggish escort missions. As for the story, it's very simple to the point where it could have not been there at all and you wouldn't miss much in my opinion. The only way I can see how to enjoy ICO is just to take it all in and treat the game as an experience where it's not about the destination but the journey. Oh fuck, hell no, no, no. I refuse to say it, as this is not true. You see what I mean when I say that it's hard to recommend it without sounding like a pretentious bastard who sniffs his own farts like a character from a South Park cartoon.
Hey there, Alan, right?
Actually, it's Elaine.
Right. Would you like red or white wine?
Could I just get an empty glass?
Oh, sure.
Can you believe all these imbeciles in Texas? They just put another prisoner to death.
I mean, one wrong step and you begin to see things that are just not present, and then convincing yourself what a flawless masterpiece this game is. At the end of the day, we're all entitled to our opinions, and I don't personally feel that I've gained much or had a particularly good time with ICO. Maybe it's just not my kind of game, and yet I still want to play Shadow of the Colossus and Lost Guardian. As for ICO, play it, but don't expect much, as it definitely does not live up to the hype. And that's about it for my take on ICO, a game that has obtained almost a cult status over the years, that I rarely see or hear anyone say anything bad about. For me, it's a flawed prototype, a first attempt at making something different. But it's great that someone had the guts to try something new. Otherwise we would have a standardized, sanitarily clean industry with little to none innovation. Oh wait. I can imagine the possible outrage in the comments like, oh, you don't get it, this is a masterpiece, you just a stupid idiot and stuff like that. But please feel free to let me know how wrong I am, or that you agree with the presented statements. Let's be grown-ups here. I mean, despite me yelling like a madman for a good part of this video. And, well, let's just try to have a good discussion about it. And of course, if you enjoy my content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and remember, only play games that are worth your time. See you in the next one. Bye.